As human beings, we are constantly living between our mission from the ideological world and the impact that we have on our surroundings. We are going to take a look at this phenomena from a more psychological point of view, and then we're going to apply it on the story of Jonah the prophet. So first, we're going to take a look to symbols. What are symbols? Well, they are appearances and they carry meaning. We do not perceive the material world directly, but through appearances. Perception is driven by meaning, and our senses are hunting for that what matters. It is more energy efficient that way. Meaning and appearance, they fuse together into symbols. For example, the appearance of the thumbs up, it has the meaning of okay. A mental symbol can get integrated with other symbols and they can create a hierarchy of meaning. And this mental hierarchy of symbols can have the form of a narrative that we can share with ourselves and with others. And this narrative points upward towards its identity. Meaningful narratives can bridge the gap between the current situation and the new situation that should be. A meaningful narrative can also work like a planted seed. It can unpack itself, differentiating itself into multiplicity. Multiplicity is integrated into the identity by a value-driven unifying pattern which work like a rhythm. For example, A, B, A, C, A, D. This rhythm uses repetitivity, the expected and the familiar, to deal with the variety, the unexpected and the unfamiliar. And our values drive the pattern, the rhythm of our perception. Variety that enters from the margins, so without this pattern, is usually perceived and integrated into the identity as trauma. So a seed from the identity can plant itself into the potential where it starts to differentiate itself. And then it's always presenting something new upwards towards the identity. And this is called the variety of the multiplicity. And the identity can then select, based on values, what gets integrated into itself. And this interaction between differentiation and integration results into a meaningful cohesion. And when we integrate the potential, we prioritize two fundamental value categories, the one of the tools and of the obstacles. The tools, they can be mental or material, and they support the continuation of our identity. And the obstacles, again, they can be mental or material, they threaten the continuation of our identity. And this holds especially true when encountering other consciousnesses, for example, friendly and hostile faces. And this perception is value-based. So for example, a friendly face can turn into an obstacle when it blocks the exit of a burning building. It is value-based perception. And then there is too much overwhelming sensory data, so we also have to apply filters, which we call attention. We cannot perceive every photon or neural signal. And our attention has three modes. It can focus on the present, it can focus on the past, we call it memory, and it can focus on the future, and we call it vision. It envisions what could be. The identity can become part and align under a bigger and higher mission. And then the mission is bestowed downwards onto the identity. And it foregrounds the identity. Look, this is the one that is going to carry out the mission. And the identity focuses and activates all its potential to create the impact on its surroundings. And they act as a validation of the identity. Now, let's apply these insights to the story of the prophet Jonah. And this story is a parody. Everything is upside down, the opposite of what we would expect, as we will see. So Jonah, he identifies himself as a Hebrew prophet, and his narrative is that God has been revealing his will exclusively to the Hebrews, so they can live accordingly. And because of that, God continues to bless them. And then Jonah, as a prophet, finds himself at the top of this hierarchy. And his mission is to reveal God's will exclusively to his people. But then God gives Jonah a new, higher mission. He must go to Nineveh, an enemy city, and preach against it. Jonah has great difficulty integrating this higher mission with his identity. Why would he alert his enemies to God's will? They might repent and then God might forgive them. Jonah can't align himself within this higher mission. So there is only one way left for him, downwards, searching for alternative options within the domain of the potential. So Jonah flees to the harbor where he finds a pagan ship that has the potential to take him to Tarshish, a pagan city in exact opposite direction of Nineveh. And he pays the pagan sailors with money and then he boards the ship. And then God confronts Jonah within this domain of the potential and he sends a storm and it has the potential to sink the ship. While Jonah sleeps aboard, unaware, the pagan sailors they are terrified and they're searching for the cause of this storm. And they cast lots, and the lots expose Jonah as the root problem. And this is ironic because casting lots symbolizes random potential, where outcomes can become anything and therefore signify anything. Yet the dice expose the prophet, which should be the other way around. And then the sailors ask Jonah, identify yourself. And Jonah tells, I am a Hebrew and I worship the Lord, the God of heaven, who made the sea and the dry land. Ironically, this confession confronts Jonah with a reality he has not fully integrated. He is fleeing across the sea while acknowledging God as the creator of the sea. So, realizing that his escape has led nowhere, his only path forward is accepting God's mission to go to Nineveh. Jonah sees no other alternative than tell the sailor to throw him overboard. In effect, he says, well, kill me. Now, Jonah is in the sea, attempting to use the potential of the water to drown himself. Yet, within the water, there are living creatures, and they fall in the two basic categories, the ones that you can eat and the one that can eat you. Some sustain your identity, and while others bring an end to it. God sends then a sea monster to swallow Jonah. And ironically, this doesn't kill him, but it preserves him in this strange undersea tomb, preventing him from drowning. Jonah, unable to even end his own life, has reached the lowest point of his potential. He, having zero impact now, is himself profoundly impacted and he starts to pray. God then commands the sea monster to release Jonah onto the beach, transforming him from the domain of the chaotic potential and the sea back again onto the dry land, the domain of the identity, the domain of the humans. With no alternatives left, Jonah goes to Nineveh, the enemy city, and he reluctantly carries out his mission, proclaiming, 40 more days and Nineveh will be overthrown. He does not explicitly mention God, he only says overthrown, which can be interpreted as destroyed, like the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah, but also it can mean transformed. And indeed, the pagan city of Nineveh is transformed. The people begin repenting. Seeing this, God does not destroy the city. And Jonah, having come full circle, he complains. Isn't this what I said at the beginning when I tried to forestall this by fleeing to Tarshish? I knew that you were a gracious and compassionate God, and now, Lord, take away my life. For me, it is better to die than to live. And then God replies, is it right for you to be this angry? But Jonah, he refuses to listen, and he goes upward to a hill outside Nineveh, waiting to see whether God might still destroy the city. But unable to bear the heat of the sun, he sits in the shade of a tree, shielding him from what is above. Once again, God is reaching Jonah. He's sending a worm that eats the roots of the tree, and the tree dies, leaving Jonah exposed to the sun, which makes him again very angry. And he says, it would be better for me to die than to live. But God asked Jonah, is it right for you to be angry about the plant? And Jonah says, it is, and I'm so angry I wish I were dead. God answers him, Jonah, if you carry about a tree that sprang up overnight and perished overnight, how much more do you think I care about the people and even the animals who live in Nineveh? So, at the end of the story, the higher mission eventually has the right impact, and Nineveh and God, they reconnect. But Jonah should have been the one that brought the connection, but he rejected participating. And therefore he gets confronted with the opposite side of the higher mission, that is in the form of chaotic potential, storms, dices, sea monsters, worms, and that poses the question, what about us? Is our identity fully integrated, no room for a higher mission? And when a higher mission finds us and places us in the spotlight, how do we react? That is the question.